Welcome to the Project DIY Hunter Podcast. If you're thinking about hunting DIY, or if you've been hunting DIY for a long time, this podcast is for you. We invite you to join us as we seek to gain knowledge to continue to be successful DIY hunters. Thanks for listening and enjoy the podcast. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Project DIY Hunter Podcast. I'm joined by my boy Charles and a couple of our friends from Arkansas. Well, we'll say our friends, but it's really Charles's good friends from Arkansas. But how you doing today, Charles? Good, man. Good. We got through some more tornadoes. I know the last time we talked, there were tornadoes going on, so there was some more today. So we made it through those, and everything's good. So, yeah, I want to introduce my buddies from Arkansas. We got Pete and then Josh. So I first started going out there with a mutual friend. His name is Lee. And I kind of met Pete through Lee, and then I met Josh through Pete. So Pete's been hunting out in Arkansas for long time, and then Josh has too, and Josh has started making duck calls. Him and his brother started making some duck calls, and then Josh just kind of went out on his own. So how are y'all doing today? How you doing today, Pete?
No, doing good.
Good. Josh, how are you?
Doing pretty good, guys. Doing pretty good.
Awesome. So I think we're just kind of going to get into some general questions and just talk about some cool stories that's happened long time ago here recently, or I guess this past year, and how we hunt or how they hunt Arkansas. I mean, they've been doing it a while. So if y'all could say anything about hunting public land in Arkansas, what would you have to say about it?
Well, I'll start off with you before Josh. So, public land, you couldn't ask for any better spot, to be honest with you. We live in the northeast corner of Arkansas, which is the big flyway, everything else, and literally within 30-minute drive. And Charles, me and you joke about this. He's like, "How far are we going?" 30 minutes. 30 minutes. That's how far we're going. 30 minutes. And we live within 30 minutes of a decent size game and fish land. I'm talking thousands of acres. I mean, you have 50,000 acres here. You have 40,000 acres here. You have 120 acres here, and they're all public land. I mean, you can't ask for a better flooded timber. We don't have a lot of public rice fields, but they're starting to do that now. It's called a rice program, like WRIC, I think, where they're doing public land on that sense, where you draw a permit and you can go hunt these fields for the weekend. But flooded timber, man, you can't ask for anything better. Recent years we've seen better numbers, but that's hunting. We've all seen it in Arkansas. We don't know what's going on, or I don't know what's going on. But just the land in general, man, you can ask for better public land around our area than anywhere.
Right, yeah. And then one thing I've kind of noticed with the ducks, I mean, it's crazy because like one day you can not see many, then the next day, I mean, you can just slaughter them. But then it's weird because so I used to go out there a good bit. Well, I still do go out there opening day, and we usually do good opening day, and then sometimes you won't, but you just never know. It's not like super consistent, I think, like it used to be 20 years ago or whatever. Because I remember, Pete, you were talking about opening day. I mean, y'all slaughtered them pretty much every opening day. And then since I've been going out there, there's been good opening days, and there've been some bad opening days.
Yeah, and it just depends on water because they're not flooding in a lot of areas as much as they do, as early as they usually do, because they're trying to do this green tree reservoir project and saying that we're killing the trees if we start flooding the air before they start going dormant. Well, I mean, if that's the case, that's the case. Because mostly what Arkansas is known for is flooded timber. I mean, it's straight up
Right.
flooded timber. And a lot of our public land is actually flooded by game and fish. So if it's not flooded naturally, it's not going to be flooded until they decide it gets flooded. So what we've noticed, and Josh, you might relay in this, is I've noticed a lot of flooding is happening after duck season, and with our rains and different stuff like that, just natural flooding. Because like right now, if duck season was going on right now, we would have as much water as we ever needed.
Right.
So, in past I remember opening day, it would be pretty bad if we didn't kill over 100 birds. That was a bad opening day.
Right.
I mean, literally a
Right.
bad opening day. And we would have groups all over us. So it's not like we were competing, for a spot or anything else. No, that was everywhere.
Yeah. So I think Josh was saying a little bit before this, before we started, or before we pressed the record button, that he's seen a lot of ducks kind of before the season started this year.
Yeah, so this year and last year, the one great thing that I love about my job being a trucker is I get to go around and I get to see where ducks are at and where they're going, and I travel. I mean, I travel the area pretty good. So this year we had ducks here September 26th, and we had them thick. Last year we had them about the first week of October. So they're here for about a month and a half before season gets in, and they're already, they're eating this field up or they're eating this timber up, and they're just bouncing around before it's even time to get here. And I don't think that hurt us this year because I mean they were here a little bit earlier than last year, but I mean I don't know what happened this year, but it's definitely between night and day from this season from the past.
Right. So if they're getting there kind of early, I mean, they're eating up a lot of that food there before the season even starts. So, that might, just it makes it where not as many birds stop just because there's not as much food because they ate them before the season. I mean, I don't know if
I honestly think we're not seeing half of the birds that we used to because they're not making them down to us because it's not getting cold. They're not getting pushed down by weather, everything getting locked up, and their food abundance. I mean, they'll land on a dry field all day long,
right.
but it's they're just not having to be pushed down. I mean, this year especially, I don't know how many times when we had that big cold front that came down that infected us, affected Texas, and everything else. I mean, I was sitting there watching pictures of millions of freaking ducks being on a little puddle of water, and
Yeah.
because that they left it open. And I just don't think there's climate change. I don't know. There's so many different things, but it's just not getting cold up north to push them down to make them want to come down. So we're just seeing those ducks that are just programmed to come down, and that's it.
Yeah. And that's one thing this year, I mean, it never really got that cold. I remember a couple years ago, we were hunting out there and it was like 9 degrees. My dad come out there with us when we were
Oh yeah,
hunting a little flooded timber. I mean, it was 9 degrees that morning. It was cold. I don't remember that in the past couple years.
The season before last, we was hunting out there in 9-degree weather, and we walk out of the water and come up out, and our waders would just be frozen. This year, we got a little bit of cold weather, and like Pete said, we would watch on the map where the upper Midwest would be just like snow and ice going across, but the ducks we never got that second wave of migration. We might have a little bit in places, but not in northeast Arkansas.
Yeah.
Man, and honestly, I think this year I spent more money and more time scouting than I ever have before, and I hate to say that we came up short this year. I
Yeah.
think we killed uh, 53, 54 birds this year total. It's been a bummer for sure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that'll change this year, and I know that's a lot better than we did in South Carolina this year. I mean, South Carolina was tough, also. It was like that all the way across the map. It seems like I got some buddies that killed some ducks in Nebraska and South Dakota this year, and I got a buddy that went out there right after them and didn't do well at all. And it's just it's crazy. It was just really hit or miss this year.
no, that's definitely for sure. I mean, I have friends that that I follow on Facebook, and they're like, we waxed them this day, this couple days over in Nebraska and Oklahoma, and then they're like, they went back out the next day and didn't see even a duck,
Yeah.
goose, or anything. So I mean, that's why they call it hunting. We're just not used to seeing the numbers that we are seeing now. So it's pretty, I mean, disheartening because I mean, you enjoy the sport. I mean, that's what it is it's a hunting sport. You enjoy the camaraderie with your friends. being around everybody, and I enjoy y'all coming out. I enjoy showing y'all places that y'all have never hunted before. And when y'all bring new people down,
Yeah,
I
Kenny.
enjoy showing them too. You know me. I mean, I'm always the type, and Arkansas hunters get the bad rap, especially if you look at the pages and stuff like that. They're always dishing out of state hunters. Man, I love y'all coming down. I mean, I really do. Um, you're hunting for a spot regardless, wherever you go. I mean,
Right.
first one there, first one there. Big deal on if it's game and fish land or whatever. First one there, first one there.
Yeah.
But I enjoy y'all coming down because y'all get to see something different. And it's the same thing as, me going over there. But it's public land. We all freaking own this land. Everybody.
Yeah.
Y'all own the land just as much as we do. It's tax dollar money.
Yeah. And that's one of the big things we talk about on these podcasts or these episodes, is that, it's everybody's land and everybody needs to use it because it's there. That's one of the things we talk about when going out west. I mean, it's just, again, I think it's like the further you get out west, the more public land there is.
Oh yeah, because I mean it's more vast. I mean, not
Yeah.
not a lot of people. It's just like literally. I'm not going to name him, but years ago when I used to be a bartender at a country club, I had a guy that said, I'll go up to South Dakota, North Dakota every year, and all we got to do is just find out where the ducks are at and find the person that owns the fields or wherever the sloughs or whatever they're in, and ask them, hey, can we hunt your land? He's like, yeah, go at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now it's a money sport, and
Yeah.
I mean we can't change that, of course, but
Right.
that's the big difference is everybody between me, Josh, you, and Tyler, and everybody, and Joe Dirt, and
Yeah.
everybody who pays taxes owns this land. This is y'all's
Right.
land. It's not Arkansas land. It's everybody's land.
Right. And it's nice. We got Ducks Unlimited and the Delta waterfowl and those kind of people, buying that land and holding it for us to go hunt too. That's definitely a plus for us waterfowlers. I know for big game they have the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and stuff like that. But it's nice to have somebody in the duck hunters court too. With that being said, let's go ahead and change up the topics and start talking about kind of like what your opening week is like. Because I know everybody, I know y'all just like me, you get pumped. Opening week before, after opening day. I mean, that's like Christmas, for me, I know. So I
Christmas.
guess we talk about starting
Christmas.
with
That ain't Christmas. That's like your child giving birth. Your wife is giving birth to a child. I mean, that's the day you're not gonna miss.
Yeah. So we'll start with you, Pete. So what does your week before opening day look like? Opening day and then after. What is that?
Oh no. Let's start with Kenny.
You don't want to start with me because I just work all the time.
All right, Kenny. Let's start off with you. We'll go around the corner.
My opening week is me on the phone with Charles the whole time trying to figure out where the heck the ducks are. I mean, to be honest, and we don't find them, and then I get hit with I'm going to Ohio for opening week because I'm going deer hunting, and Charles is going to Arkansas. So my opening week's kind of skewed when it comes to ducks.
No, I understand.
I'm usually in Ohio chasing whitetail for opening week.
Well, honestly, lately you've probably been a little bit better than we have.
Definitely last year.
I had a pretty good time last year.
Yeah, he killed a monster last year. Go ahead, Pete.
I'm about to say I'll chime in right now, and usually the week before, it ain't the week before, it's the months before.
You're right.
I mean, Josh started. I talk to Josh a lot throughout the summer. We go boating and everything else, but I mean, my phone bill goes up a little bit when I talk to Josh throughout duck season. Usually about the couple weeks before, I start calling Josh, and like he said, he drives a truck, so he's around the areas and see if he's seen anything, what he's seeing, general area concentrations, what he's seeing, like what kind of is it mallards or spoonies or like whatever migration he's seeing. And biggest thing is just most of my stuff is already done every year. Decoys strung constantly. Clean and gun, just getting ready. Just hopefully we just mass shoot them and everything else. So I'm getting everything ready for that. But
Yeah.
the biggest thing is just getting everything ready. And a couple days before, just start losing sleep and start having to take some sleeping pills so I can go to bed.
Yeah. Where we
You know,
going? Where we going? Opening day. Where we going?
exactly like. But the sad thing is, like I've always told Josh, and Josh will claim to this, is I've always had that one spot where I like to start out. I've always liked to start out this
Yeah, I
spot,
know exactly where that's at.
regardless if we see ducks or not. I've always liked to start there. And this year
Yeah,
was
don't be telling
very
our spot online.
but this year was very disheartening because I mean we scout this spot like weeks in advance. We would go out there and just sit on a levee, and it's flooded. It's semi-flooded timber slash flooded other areas. But we'll go and sit in some cover and just watch for hours. And this year, uh, it was very disheartening because we didn't see any like ducks that we usually see, if any.
Yeah.
Usually, we'll sit in there. We'll see a couple hundred ducks here and there, and coming in land and different stuff like that. But eh, I mean, just the general getting together uh, on the few opening days before duck season. I mean, hell, it's mainly just nail biters and just making sure you got all your equipment ready. That's
So what
all.
what time do you get there the day before?
Well, it varies. You start looking at social media and they start getting there at 7 o'clock. You get off work and you go there the day before. It's steadily gotten like you. We got to remember this is public land, so I'm not the type that is going to wake up late and push my way into a spot or encroach on somebody. Because if they get the spot, they get the spot. I mean that's just ethical.
Right.
And you have a lot of people that don't do that. But you know, opening day is like I said, it's like the birth of your child. It's a very special moment, and people that have really duck hunting, deer hunting, especially, anybody that has any kind of season embedded into their soul, that's a special day. So, I mean, with my friends, we've all, I've done it. I'm almost 40 years old. I turned 40 this year, and I started duck hunting when I was 15. And from the day that I started hunting was opening day. My brother took me out to the spot that I always go to, and we camped out the night before. It was always just a camp out. And usually boats didn't show up till about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, but it shortly, years over years and years, became worse and worse where you might have to get out there at 7 o'clock at night to even get a spot in the ramp or get anything.
Yeah.
So it's gotten more packed. It definitely has.
But we've kind of turned that into going out early and hanging out and having a good time, taking a grill, and
Oh,
just
yeah.
yeah.
Just
So
having a good time with friends. I mean,
yeah.
hell, I don't know how many times I invited other groups to come join us.
Right.
Just for the night cookout and everything else.
Yeah. So I guess moving down to Josh, what is your opening week and opening day? I mean, obviously we hunt together, so it's going to obviously be pretty similar. But what's your takeaway for opening day?
Well, so for me, mine starts way before opening week. Um, Pete's actually went out with me a few times, and he's been out, maybe a time or two by himself. But mine starts literally November 1st. I start going around even after I get off work. I go driving around, looking where they're at. Of course, before even season gets here, I've already got my boat ready, decoys ready. I've got that done way in October already. But like building up to opening week, I'm literally taking off not every night, but I'm taking 2 or 3 times a week, going and looking, seeing where they're at, and sometimes we end up together, and sometimes we end up alone. And and as of course this year, uh, on certain WMAs, not all of them, you could not be on WMA a week before season, like David Donaldson, Big Lake, Bimeda. You couldn't be in there a week before season. They didn't want you disturbing the wildlife. So you had to really get all your scouting in. If you wanted to hunt those WMAs, you had to get your scouting in beforehand. And then, of course, the night before opening day, that Friday, I got off at 5, and like you got off at 7, and I think we ended up out there at probably about 8 o'clock, and then we had a few of our friends, and then I think Charles, did you join us on opening day? I can't remember.
I did. I drove through the night and got there about 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock.
Oh yeah,
Well, see, that's the bad part. You don't leave enough of an impression for him to even realize that you came. So you need to step your game up.
Well, I did get there late.
No,
That's
because
for
remember
sure.
we were over there in south of the Wide Water, and I had to go pick them up.
Yeah,
that's right.
I had a crew of about 3 with me. But yeah, I guess for my opening week, I'm rigging stuff that don't need to be rigged and rigging decoys that I ain't used in the past 5 years just to rig up something, and I'm just kind of scouting in the mornings and stuff before work and after work and stuff around here, which it don't really matter because I don't never hardly hunt here opening day anyway. But at least I got something to tell my buddies, and I just enjoy doing it. And then opening day.
Which out there is totally different.
Well, I mean, I know how I don't get excited about opening day anymore, and I think it's from the years of being unsuccessful on opening day here. Once you do something so long and it kind of takes the wind out of your sails, it's not something you really want to, look forward to.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I've been pretty successful on the second opening days or the opening days that I've been here, which is not many. I've done pretty well, is to say, but usually we leave I think Greenville around 6 o'clock, and then we'll get to Arkansas about 4. And that's been my opening day. Staying up. I think this last year I stayed up 40 hours straight, just to see if I could still do it.
No, you slept. You just didn't know it.
Yeah, just to see if I could still do it like I did 10 years ago when I first come out there.
I feel like you can't.
Yeah, I could. I proved it. It took me a while to recover, but
we was in Edisto this year. You didn't make it past 10 o'clock, not one night.
Yeah, that's Edisto. But yeah, so let's move into calling ducks. I know y'all two are definitely by far the best duck callers I've ever been around, and so I just kind of give us a little insight on how you learned to call ducks. And
well, I appreciate you saying I'm one of the best duck callers you've ever met.
Yeah, I don't think I was.
Oh, you weren't talking to me. Oh, I'm sorry.
Josh, I'll let you lead on this one.
Well, I learned. Well, sad enough, I've got a brother that made duck calls way back in the day, and my first duck call ever was one he made me. But he taught me a few things, but I learned how to call ducks on my own, and it wasn't going out listening to ducks. It was finally finding a call that fit me, and that I started to sound good. And I did actually have a little help from a buddy of mine that I was hunting at the time that gave me some tips. And then other than that, it was really learning. And I can remember several times being out on the river, and this was before I met Pete. I had another friend that we just like hunted together constantly, and he would call at every duck he ever seen. It could be sky high, and he's calling at them. I was like, "What are you doing that for? They can't hear you." I said, "You think they can, but they can't." And then just kind of being with him, just watching ducks and whacking at them, and seeing how they respond, because that's the biggest thing is, and a lot of people don't get. And I know y'all have probably been around people that don't get that sense of, hey, if you're quacking at a duck and it still keeps moving, or you flare it, stop calling that duck, because if you keep on calling, there might be some swinging around the corner, and if they flared, guess what? If they come around seeing them birds moving, they're going to follow them. So the best thing, you got to call while you're watching them. That's how I would tell people. If they're responding, just keep doing it. Just the biggest thing is watching them. If they're responding, keep doing it. But don't be that one out. Don't be that guy that's out there trying to call like it's Stuttgart Main Street contest. I have never seen anybody call a duck in like that. It's always, I mean, yeah, you need about medium volume, but if you'll watch and they're responding, then they'll do what you want. But when they're flaring away, stop
Right.
that duck call. And a lot of people don't get that. They'll either call louder, more aggressive, and sometimes you got to do that because we've all been out there in the mornings and you're calling ducks and it's nothing happen. They're really not responding, and you just get to a certain point. I know I have this year to where I just couldn't take it, and I call aggressive. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it don't. So that's the learning the calling on the corners and when to call them
Yeah.
back, and doing the feed call too. And it took me, I would say, 5 years before I would ever call myself good. Pete, since you're back, we'll let you
Yeah.
go ahead.
I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, honestly, I have my first degree in college was music education. So, I have a different perspective on, how things are played and stuff like that. But how I learned how to freaking blow a duck call is, 15, 16 years old. And I boated down a little river, found a ton of ducks, and I just sat there. And they couldn't see me because trees were in front of them. This is all flooded timber, so I just sat and just listened to them and just listened. And I just sit there and quacked and try to mimic on what they were doing. And I mean, just you doing that sense is not learning how to call a duck, but how to sound like a duck. So I learned how to sound like a duck there. Um, how you learn how
Right.
to actually call a duck is years of experience. You got to know when the ducks are going this way, going that way, if they're turning a certain way, if you can see a certain thing, you call a certain way. Um, you know, is and it also brings back an old story. Is I think it was a Buck Gardner CD a long time ago. It was a Buck Gardner CD that he said if you can see a tail and a head, you sit there and call, you hail call, but if you don't see that, you chatter, you soft call everything. You don't hail call, you don't do a comeback call, and it's a hard subject because you have, like Josh said, you have people that overcall, you have people that, hey, if I see a duck, I'm going to call at it, it's going to come to me. No, it's not. You got to get that right call, the right sound to make them feel like they need to come in. And um, that comes with experience. That comes with you getting the right call for you. Um, I mean, Josh makes really good duck calls, everything else. The best duck call I've ever had, and I'm sorry to say it, is a double reed night in hell. I wish I still had that call. I
Yeah.
wish I still had that call
Boo.
because I could get that thing as raspy as all could be. I mean, soft, hard. It was raspy. It was, and like it was the tone I wanted. And Josh's calls, I mean, they definitely do it for me and everything else, and I can get that raspiness, but it's just no, it's that's years of experience. Is ducks flying over. You call a certain way, they're gonna come back.
Yeah.
You call it, you just got to pay attention to the situation.
Yeah, and obviously I learned from you and everybody else that I hunt with out there. But I think what helped me a lot was hunting, or we were hunting that morning, and then there was like a rest area, and just going and sitting and watching the birds, and how they and what noises they made while they were, cutting back around, or while they were about to land, or the ducks are sitting on the water while my ducks are circling them, and just kind of see how they react and call to each other, and then just kind of putting that together with what y'all kind of showed me.
I mean, because in the end, that's all you're mimicking. I mean, is a safe area.
Yeah. So let's move to decoys. So how do you set your decoys up? If the wind's blowing a certain way, how do you set them up? I mean, I know how we do in South Carolina is a lot different than you do in Arkansas, by about, I don't know, 7 dozen differences, but
10 dozen different.
so how do you set them up out there?
Go ahead, Josh.
Well, the way we normally do it is he brings his 3 dozen, I bring my 3 dozen, and then we actually have another guy that hunted with us a bunch this year. He brings his 6 dozen, and we'll fill a hole and put a couple jerk strings out. The biggest thing, and it's been the past, I don't know how many years we're in this now, to where you can't use a spinning wing on public land or anything that has motion, but except for a jerk string, if you don't put a big majority out there and have that motion, I guarantee you there's guys that's either in this other timber hole or even out there on the lake when we're hunting on the lake part. There's guys out there putting 20 to 30 dozen around their pontoon. So if you only put a couple dozen out, you're not going to get noticed as well because they're going to see that big spread. And I guarantee you, I've watched them several mornings this past season fall into the biggest spread. But sometimes, the biggest spread ain't the best thing. But we definitely did it quite a few times. And even though we didn't have the ducks this year, last year I think we did our best with probably about 6 or 7 dozen out.
Yeah,
I think,
I agree.
or anywhere between 3 to 6 dozen, what we did our best on. Uh, and then also too, no matter where you're at or where you're hunting, whether it's Arkansas, New Mexico, or wherever you like to hunt, setting up for the wind. I think Rick Dunn from Echo Call said it the best. You got to try to set up with the wind to your back. If you have a wind, there's actually been several mornings where there's no wind, but if there's a wind, put that wind to your back because them ducks like to land into the wind. And yes, sometimes you'll get like teal, especially. They don't care what the way the wind's coming; they're gonna land in any way they want. But if you got the wind at your back, you got the best chance. And I like to put, if I'm gonna set with the wind in my back, I'm actually gonna, I want them decoys closer to me so that I can bring them in as close as I can. That's how I like to set them up, and we did that quite a bit. So, Pete, you want to do your 2 cents on that one?
I want to hear about South Carolina boys. Kenny?
You just throw about 1 or 2 mallards in a wood duck hole, and that'd be about all you need to do. Nah, man, we honestly don't put out that many decoys. Even when we hunt big water, like when I hunt swamps and stuff around my house, I'm half dozen to a dozen mallards, half dozen wood ducks. It's just a little morning shoot. When we go to the lake, it's probably 2 dozen Charles, and put them more of like a J hook or 2 pods or a V, and it's pretty much how you run it around here.
Yeah. So and that's how, we run a little bit more when we went to Gunnersville. We didn't run many when we were in Maine. It was probably a dozen and a half when we was up there. Arkansas is definitely the place that I see the most decoys ran. Like when we go to Kansas, we limited out twice on a couple decoys. But definitely Arkansas is one of the ones where you see those big spreads, and I guess it's got a lot to do with the rice fields and stuff too, and just the open holes. You kind of want to fill them up to direct the birds where you want them to go. Don't do no good for the bird to land 125 yards out.
Well, one thing from around here that you want to make it look realistic, and down there, 7 dozen ducks in one spot's not unnatural. You get
Right.
more than like 10 mallards around here, something's not right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you want
especially
a
in one
WMA
group.
hunt for sure.
Yeah. So, we try to mimic what you see, and usually what we see is just, groups here and there.
And the best spread that I can think of is just a J hook, like y'all said, just literally on, if the wind's coming, let's just say to your right, the wind's blowing out of the right, so it's blowing out of the right to the left. You're going to focus most of your decoys to the left in a big group, and then sit there and trail it like a J hook, like a Nike sign. Just to funnel them in, just say, hey, we're going to land in this little pocket. But in a lot of senses, when I deal with flooded timber, I've noticed a lot of times I do a T hook. where I'll throw, about a dozen or two decoys out straight out and keep them pretty tight, and then bring it into you, and then along the tree line, both sides to you. So that way you have the ducks that are sitting here like trying to figure it out, coming in one way, and then they're going to start trying to land, but they pick up because they see the decoys or they don't feel comfortable, but they'll land close to the left side. So it's like a T hook, and I've seen that happen a lot of times, especially on where me and Josh hunt. Uh, but I mean, it's just dependent. You have the right spread, it's spread right, and if it's not, then it's not.
Yeah. So I think I want to move into, let's tell some stories and kind of experiences. I know we definitely got some good stories. I know me and Pete were in that boat race back in, what was that, 2016? That was pretty interesting.
Nah, I
That
can't
got kind
remember
of
that year.
famous on YouTube. Got pretty famous on YouTube, Facebook, and all that. Is there any cool stories that y'all want to talk about that's happened long time ago, recently?
Well, man, there's tons of stories. We go back to we'll start with last season when you came down opening week for opening weekend. I wasn't with y'all the first day, but I was with y'all for the rest of the week, and we just had some killer hunts. I mean it. I mean, what we had
Yeah.
most of our ducks by 7:30, and we'd stay a little bit later and scrap out some ducks. We stayed on the ducks till that Sunday, which I can't remember if you stayed all week or not. But that Sunday was the first day we got skunked last year. Then another story this year. With this year and last year, I got to knock two birds off the bucket list. Last year was with the help of one of Pete's friends, but I'll still claim it. This year I got to knock out a redhead, and last year I got to knock out a black duck. So there's two ducks off the bucket list. Those
Yeah.
were pretty cool.
Yeah, so that hunt you were talking about that we did so well, that was actually my buddy Charlie's first time to Arkansas, I believe, and we smacked him both days and then went back to the house. He's like, "Man, I love Arkansas." I'm like, "Yeah, I bet you do." We smacked them both days and seen thousands of birds. Pete, you got any cool stories from when you started hunting, maybe, and how what kind of boat? How did you hunt when you first started?
All right. So again, I'm 39 years old, about to turn 40, and I mean, my brother duck hunted. I was never into it or anything else, but he took me in, and he's like, "Let's go duck hunting." So my mom finally said, "Okay, you can take him." And it was it was nothing but flooded timber. Um, I was 15, 16 years old, and literally I didn't have a pair of waders, nothing else. He stuck me in a tree that would hold me. I had a single shot 20 gauge, and it was, I don't care to say it, but it was at Randy Brake in Arkansas. And it was before they had all the restrictions or anything else. But he took me out there, and I don't know what it was. We threw out about a dozen or 2 dozen decoys and just flooded timber. I mean, canopy over you. There was no real like open hole, but there was an open hole over the canopy. And I was sitting in a tree, no waders, nothing else, and I killed my limited ducks. And that moment, I was freaking hooked. Uh, my very first hunt, I killed, my second shot, I killed 2 ducks with one shot, and because they were that close, and it was ridiculous. I mean, it was, it was just a moment that
Hooked you forever.
that can't be replaced.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's what got into my blood. I mean, it just dug deep, and it dug deep.
Yeah, it just got more and more expensive
Deep
from
enough.
there.
Exactly, and that was probably my favorite hunt that I can remember. But I have tons of hunts with friends and family, and that just bring true to the spirit of duck hunting, and especially spending time with family, because that's the biggest thing it's about. But uh, it was a lot of times down in, the spot that me and Josh talk about where I'd go duck hunting every year, opening day. It's camaraderie. And we used to do, just like I said, we killed opening morning. If we didn't kill 100 birds, something was up.
Yeah.
I mean, it got to be the point to that. Now it's like if we barely kill 50, who knows? Um, the sport's definitely gotten involved, um, by a lot of people. I don't know if it's the right thing or the wrong thing, but it definitely has. Uh, and I still remember also one hunt when I first met Josh. I didn't meet him yet. Took some buddies down to the spot that I was talking about, and he showed up in his boat with some green lights. I was like, "Who in the hell is this?" And my buddy's like, "Oh, it's my buddy that I work with, stuff like that. I work with him. He's gonna hunt with us." And I start talking to him, and he's like, "I've hunted here for years." I was like, "Well, oh well, but you're more than welcome to hunt with us now if you want." He was already invited, of course, and it grew from there. And the biggest things that I like is it grows friendships, between a lot of different counties and states and everything else, because I mean this land is ours.
Go ahead. Okay. Uh, it would actually be my first time out on the St. Francis, and this is a long time ago. And Pete remembers when we had actually there floating blinds out there that people maintained. That yes, you had to be the first one there to be able to hunt it. And that's a whole nother story. But it was my first time being out there, and there were six of us sitting on the front deck. That morning hadn't been a stellar morning, and there was a room that we had a charcoal bucket. We cooked breakfast and go in there and warm up. And oh man, I remember it was cold that day. I didn't even bundle up enough my first time out there. Uh, and then everybody went inside, and I come back outside after I ate breakfast, and there was ducks sitting in the decoys. And I picked up my gun, and it jammed. And everybody else had their guns lined up across the front porch, whatever we call it. That duck got up and it made two circles in this big hole that we was in. I shot everybody's gun, all three shots, and the last gun I picked up, the second shot finally knocked it down. I mean, no matter how many times I shot probably, oh Lord, I bet you I shot 15 bullets at this gun or at this duck at least, and it would not go away. It would just circle around, and it finally went down. And then it was like the guy that took me out there's like, "Hey, now we got to go get it. Thanks a lot, buddy." I was like, "Well, come on, let's go." And I bet I shoot another 10 more shells trying to shoot this duck going through the woods. First time ever doing it. I wasted a box of shells on my first mallard ever, and that's actually hanging in there in the den on the wall. So that's just the last story I want to say.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That lines me up for that same area is where I shot my first Arkansas duck. That's actually on the wall in here, and it was a huge mallard. And it was
I know, because I remember I drowned that duck because you wouldn't mess it up.
yeah, and I actually shot down on that duck, which is pretty cool. I think we was hunting out of an elevated blind that day. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess I want to kind of tell a story about how I got to know you guys a little deeper. I know I've talked about it on a previous podcast, previous episode, I believe. So when I went to the tech school before I got into Clemson, there was a girl from the high school that I went to there, and she had a friend named Alex, and we were just kind of all hanging out over at their apartment one day, and she had a duck decoy, and this was when I just started getting into duck hunting, and I was like, "Why do you have a duck decoy?" And long story short, I'm driving out to Arkansas to meet her cousin, Lee, and we get out here about lunchtime. He's working in an office, and he's like, "Here you go, guys. Here's the keys to my house. Y'all go hang out there. I'm about to finish up working." We've never met this guy before, and he's giving me the keys to his house to go hang out and wait for him to get off work. He didn't even know my last name, I don't think. And so then from then on, that was Lee, and then I met Pete, and then I met Josh, and then Derek, and a lot of other guys, Mooney, just a lot of cool guys that I would never got to meet. We actually hang out and not just duck hunt, because I think Pete's been to South Carolina twice, and I go out there and it's not even duck season, so it's definitely developed a friendship. Last topic I want to go into would be, how do you cook your duck? Obviously, I know Pete grills it because we've done it 1,000 times, but just kind of go into like kind of how you prepare them and what you do really quick for anybody listening that wants to know.
The biggest thing is with the duck that I cook. Of course, I grill it. I'll cut up the duck meat in cubes and marinate in lime juice, and I like to make poppers out of it because that's what seems to everybody's likes. So marinate in lime juice for about 6-7 hours, and put some Creole seasoning over the duck meat, and wrap it in cream cheese and bacon, and just cook it. I mean, that's the best thing that in a party situation, kind of a thing. Everybody just wants to just have a
Finger
little,
foods.
yeah, finger foods kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I got some recipes for some duck gumbo, but I've never cooked it that way. But I mean, that's about how I cook it.
Yeah. Josh, how do you cook your duck?
Well, I do mine a couple different ways. I fry some of mine. I like I like fried duck. It tastes pretty good. But uh, the first thing I do is I get a bowl after I clean the ducks. They sit in salt water for 3 to 4 days. I make sure to get as much blood as I can out of there, which is probably a lot of people do. I like to use salt water, and then also kind of milk does too. Milk does good, but I prefer salt water. And then I don't like cutting them up. If I'm making poppers, kind of like he said, I like to cut them up in cubes, but I like to just fillet them out and marinate them in Worcestershire sauce. Then that's good for grilling. Then normally if I fry them after they blood them, I don't let them soak in anything. I'll just kind of get some egg batter, dip them in egg, dip them in like flour and spices and stuff, and just throw them in the deep fryer, and they're good like that. The three ways I grill them which is let them soak in Worcestershire sauce. Then second is I let them marinate in barbecue, and then the third one is Catalina dressing. If you've never had duck
Huh.
marinated in Catalina dressing, you need to try it because it is the bomb.
Yeah, I have to check that out.
And that's about the ways I like to cook mine.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've never done definitely two of those before. I've done the poppers with the jalapenos, cut the jalapeno, stuff the cream cheese in there, and wrap it in bacon, and grill it. I've done that kind of stuff before. Kenny, have you cooked duck a special way?
Most of the time we do it kebab, marinated zesty Italian, and cook it on grill with some peppers and onions. That's kind of our go-to other than poppers.
Yeah.
Because I don't like jalapenos. I always do like sweet peppers.
Yeah. So I know, Josh, you got your own call making company, I guess you could call it, or you make duck calls and you sell them. And so do you want to go ahead and give us your info and how listeners can get a hold of you and what platforms you're on?
Yeah, I won't go into a long spiel, but my name is Josh Lynn. My company is Bustin Tail Calls. This is the second year for that, and I'm in my fourth year of call making. Me and my brother started out. He made a name for himself, and I thought I don't want to share or take away from his limelight or be in the behind the scenes, so I let him do his own thing and went my own way. I do have a Facebook page. You can like it. If you want to follow me, that's fine too. I make three different model J frame calls right now. I make a J frame blue wing tail call. I make a 6-in-1 whistle, and I can't remember what else I make. But if you just go to my Facebook page, that's the only thing I'm on. I'm sorry, I'm not a big social media person. Facebook is the only thing I have. I'm not into that Instagrammies or the Twitter things, my bobbers or whatever the heck you want to call them. I'm not into that stuff. Most of the time, I don't even watch a whole lot of TV because when I get home from work, I'm out there in the shop just pilling around, which is I just got a brand new it's an old vintage metal lathe, but I've been this week teaching myself how to be a machinist, and it's pretty cool. It's a big learning curve, but I've been pretty good at it. Um, but anyway, just if I can ever build you a call, go look at my page, and then also what I was telling you earlier too. Um, I don't think that most of the people know about small call shops. If you ever want to see the awesome work that a lot of people do, there's a Facebook group called Call Nuts, and then there's Call Lounge, Duck Call Makers, there's several of them, but Call Nuts is going to be your biggest one, and you can see what people build and come up with, and it will just amaze you. Like you said, you got Brad Samples there in South Carolina. You know, how many people can you actually say, "Hey, have you ever heard of Brad Samples?" Well, who is that? Like, man, you need to go check out his duck calls. They are awesome. I mean, there's so many great local talent out there that a lot of people don't know about, and I encourage you to
Yeah.
go look up at one of these Facebook pages and see all the wonderful work. Yeah, there you go. Is that the checkered one? Yeah, do it. I dare you. Do it.
You gonna give us a sound profile there, Pete?
There you go. That's Bustin Tail Calls, baby.
Yeah, so go check him out. It's Bustin Tail Calls. So thank you guys for listening. We're definitely going to do it again with these guys, and hopefully when we go out there to hunt, we'll be able to shoot an episode in person. There's definitely going to be some YouTube videos coming up of us hunting out in Arkansas.
Say, Kenny, like I said last time I was out there, Kenny, it's like y'all are more than welcome.
No, trust me, all I gotta do is wait on a phone call from Charles. He's got to be more planned because my schedule's not as flexible as his is. He's the one in
Well,
there.
definitely.
He's in there telling people what to do. I'm the one that's doing it, so I can't just leave, all the time like someone.
He's like, I'm gonna go off this weekend. So, one of my biggest trips actually with Charles is he like just him alone. He came down. It was spur of the wind moment. He's like, I'm coming down for the weekend. Do you have a place for me to stay? It's like, of course, always do.
Yeah, I did that a lot.
Yeah, and I was like, I have, you can sleep in my bed, whoever's bed. So he came down there and hunted the river and didn't shoot anything like in 2 days. And I had most of my friends with me. The people that we usually hunt with. It was a weekend hunt, so it was like a Friday, Saturday, and Monday, and didn't kill hardly anything over the weekend. And Charles was like, man, I'm tired. I'm just ready to go home.
Got to drive back.
Yeah, I got to drive back 10 hours. I was like, man, I don't disagree with you 100%. I was like, man, I just have this weird feeling about tomorrow. And it was. I mean, it was a weird feeling. And I told him, I was like, let's just go hunting in the morning. And if we don't see nothing, you can drive back about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, get back to South Carolina about, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And we set up in the same spot we did the past 2 freaking days. And I don't know if the wind was right. We set decoys right. I don't know what it was, but like literally, Charles has what's that GoPro videos of this. I mean, he's like recording, and I'm like, why don't you shoot? He goes, I can't because I'm recording, and it's like he's recording all these ducks. We're having like 75, 150 groups, like groups of ducks just coming in.
Sky high, comes straight in. Unreal.
Yeah, just come straight in and land. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? He goes, I'm just recording it. He says, I've never seen this. I was like, well, let's see it. So I don't shoot or anything else. We just let it happen. And when we start really trying to kill ducks, we limit it out by the end of the day. And so it's like 10 o'clock. And all we had is a 16-foot war eagle with a 40 horse on the back and a burlap sack hung in front of us. That's all we had. Hung in between trees, and we were hungered behind them, and we were just like popping them off. So yeah, and then Charles left, and he was like, "I was like, you got your limit, my limit in the boat. Okay, you're going back to South Carolina."
Yeah. Then I got to clean all of them when I got back at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night.
Well, that's your fault. Would you?
Camry. It was a little Camry.
Ultima.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was your little Arkansas beater that the radio didn't work, so you put your phone in your hoodie so you can listen to the radio.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That thing just went to Arkansas. It cost me $40, $45 to get out there in that thing. Yeah, it was unreal. And then I'd tell Jessica, I'd be like, "All right, I'm headed to Arkansas." She's like, "When?" And I'm like, "About 10 minutes ago." And just, I would decide like that. Pete'd be like, "All right, the ducks are here." I'm like, "All right, I'll be there in 9 hours." That's kind of how it went.
And it was always, hey,
Yeah.
it was
Times for
always,
sure.
hey, you have a bed.
Luckily, because man, days in is awful. So this is, when I had some guys come with me, and I think Pete was moving or something, and so we're I'm setting out in the parking lot in a parking space with a grill, grilling some pork chops, some duck. I can't remember, but about the time I was, taking the stuff off the grill, SWAT team pulled up and parked on both sides of me when I'm sitting there in a lounge chair grilling in the parking lot and raided the room right above ours, took a guy out in handcuffs and left. And I'm still just sitting there, grilling with my jaw wide open. I didn't know what to do. That was just one of the stories that we can tell. Yeah. So if you have any questions for Pete or Josh, you can email us at projectdiyhunter@gmail.com. And then we have an Instagram page, project_DIY_hunter. We have a YouTube channel. So check that out. And then we have a TikTok, Project DIY Hunter, and a Facebook, Project DIY Hunter. So with any questions, concerns, reach out to us. We won't mind helping you at all.